Imagine this: you're suddenly transported 10,000 years back in time, to a world where humans are struggling to survive against vicious predators, freezing winters, and the constant threat of starvation. You stand in the middle of a vast, wild landscape. No cities, no technology, just raw, primal survival instincts. The wind is biting, the ground rough, and your only weapon is a stone tool you crafted yourself. Could you survive? Or would you become just another part of the ancient food chain? The world of the Stone Age was more brutal and unforgiving than anything you can imagine today. But what if we had the chance to experience it firsthand? In this video, we'll explore the shocking realities of life during this ancient time and ask the ultimate question: what would happen if you time travel back to the Stone Age? The moment your feet hit the rough, uneven earth, you're instantly hit with the harshness of the world around you. Gone are the soft pillows, warm blankets, and digital screens. You're standing in a world that hasn't seen modern civilization in thousands of years, a time when humans were just starting to figure out how to survive. The wind bites at your skin, and the sounds of the wilderness, unfamiliar calls, rustling leaves, and distant animal growls fill your ears. The landscape is vast, open, and unforgiving, stretching as far as you can see. No cities, no roads, no safe havens, just the raw, untamed land that humans once roamed. Your first challenge: survival. Without the luxury of modern technology, you're faced with the overwhelming task of finding shelter and food. You look around and see nothing familiar: no food stores, no restaurants, just trees, rocks, and open skies. But the wilderness is alive, and it's ready to test you. The truth hits hard. Survival isn't about surviving a few days or weeks, it's about adapting to this world for the long haul. You take your first step forward, unsure where to go, but you know one thing for sure: you have to act fast. Your first priority is shelter. You can't stay out in the open, especially with the unknown dangers that might be lurking in the shadows. The ground is cold beneath your feet, and the air grows chillier as the sun dips lower. You need to find a safe place to sleep. As the sun sets, your mind races, thinking about the most immediate threats. The Stone Age wasn't just cold, it was dangerous. You know the stories of creatures like the saber-toothed tiger and the mammoth, but facing them in person, that's something else entirely. And you haven't even begun to think about food. How would you hunt in a world where everything seems to want to eat you? In this part, we'll take a closer look at your initial steps in this ancient world. Your first search for shelter, the danger lurking around every corner, and the unsettling feeling that comes from being so far removed from modern life. The Stone Age wasn't just about surviving the day, it was about surviving a world that wanted to kill you. The first rule of the Stone Age: if you don't find food, you won't survive. Your stomach growls in protest as the reality of this ancient world sinks in. Gone are the days of fast food or easy access to meals. Here, in the heart of the wilderness, every meal is a battle for survival. You need to find food, and fast. Looking around, you start thinking about how early humans might have survived hunting, foraging, and scavenging. But you don't have a spear, a bow and arrow, or even the basic tools that Stone Age humans might have used. What do? Your first instinct is to look for something edible. The trees surrounding you seem to hold no promise, offering nothing but leaves and branches. But there's one thing you've learned from modern survival shows: you need to keep moving. You begin to walk, your senses heightened, scanning for anything that might be of use. You hear a rustling in the bushes nearby. Could it be a small animal? You freeze, holding your breath, trying to make out what's hidden in the thick foliage. It's a small, wild rabbit, a quick target. But is your survival instinct sharp enough to take it down? The first few days would be filled with trial and error. Maybe you can set a trap, like the ancient hunters did. But even then, you're not entirely sure what's safe to eat and what might kill you. Your mind races back to the lessons you've learned. Certain berries are poisonous, others are edible, roots, leaves, and small game could be your lifeline. But every decision you make could be your last. This part will delve into the primal challenge of food hunting, the constant tension of never knowing if you'll find your next meal or go hungry. It's about learning to live like an ancient human, with no convenience stores or refrigerators, only what the wild has to offer. And when hunger strikes, it doesn't wait for you to be ready. As the sun disappears behind the horizon, you're faced with the terrifying reality that nightfall in the Stone Age isn't just dark, it's dangerous. The temperature drops quickly, and the shadows feel alive with unseen threats. Without fire or the comfort of a home, the night is your enemy, your shelter. A hastily constructed lean-to of branches and leaves offers little protection from the biting cold and any predators that might be lurking nearby. The first night in the Stone Age is a test of endurance and mental fortitude. You can't help but wonder how early humans managed to survive the terror of the unknown. That comes when the sun sets. There are no lights, no civilization, just you, your shelter, and the vast darkness of the prehistoric world. You might hear the distant howl of a wolf or the growl of a predator, each sound amplified by the silence of the wilderness. Fear sets in as you realize just how alone you are. Your mind races with thoughts of what could be out there: saber-toothed tigers, large predators stalking the night, or maybe even rival human tribes. The loneliness begins to weigh on you. The Stone Age was a brutal time, and humans needed to be tougher than you've ever imagined. Survival meant being alert and constantly aware of everything around you. You won't make it through the night if you let your guard down. The emotional toll of solitude is a real part of prehistoric survival. The psychological strain of being in a world that doesn't care about your survival is overwhelming. The world of the Stone Age is hostile, and it's a constant battle to stay alive, not just physically, but mentally. But it's also here, in this night of fear, where you might start to realize what it truly takes to survive. The next morning, the weight of the night's fear begins to lift, but only slightly. The real test of survival begins with the hunt. You can't stay in your shelter forever, especially with the gnawing hunger in your stomach. But what you need isn't just food, you need knowledge. You need to know how the ancient humans were able to track, trap, and kill prey in a world that gave no second chances. The first problem: you don't have any tools. But the Stone Age was all about improvising. You quickly scan your environment and notice the abundance of raw materials. Rocks, sticks, and sharp-edged flint litter the ground. Could you make a stone tool? The answer: yes, but it's not easy. Creating tools in this world is nothing like the effortless use of modern gadgets. Early humans took hours, sometimes days, to craft a simple hand axe or spear. Without proper tools, your chances of surviving are slim. No sharp spear means no hunt. No hunt means no food. So, you begin to make your first tool. The process is slow and painstaking. You pick up a large rock, a sharp one, and start chipping away at the edges using another rock, trying to form a crude blade. It's not perfect, but it's functional, at least enough to defend yourself. If necessary, you can't afford to be picky. The Stone Age was a world where resourcefulness was the key to staying alive. Next, you need to find prey. You know that early humans weren't just randomly attacking animals, they were strategic. They understood patterns in the animal kingdom. Certain creatures followed predictable paths, usually near water sources. So, you make your way to the nearest riverbank, scanning the area for any sign of life. The thought of a meal sparks a sense of urgency in your chest, pushing you forward despite the fear that tightens your gut. You finally spot a small herd of wild boar drinking from the river. They're a good size for a first hunt, difficult to take down, but manageable with the right approach. Your heart races as you crouch behind a nearby bush, your makeshift spear gripped tightly in your hand. You wait for the perfect moment, trying to remember the lessons of the ancient hunters: patience, precision. Don't rush. The boars are unaware of your presence. You take a deep breath, steadying your hands. You focus on one target, the weakest, the slowest. You can't afford to miss. You lunge forward with your spear, aiming for its heart. The animal squeals, its body crashing to the ground as it thrashes in agony. It's not easy, it's a struggle, and you're shaking with adrenaline, but you've done it. You've brought down your first prey. The rush of success is overwhelming, but the work has just begun. You must now gut, clean, and cook your catch, a process far more complicated than simply throwing food in a microwave. In this world, fire is precious, and using it to cook means surviving. Without it, you risk infection and illness. It's here that you face another test of your skills: creating fire, but that's a challenge for another day. For now, you've won your first battle in the Stone Age. This part will continue to explore the raw reality of surviving without modern tools or knowledge. It's about learning to think like an ancient human, where every meal isn't guaranteed, and every kill is a victory. And it's also about the constant fight for resources, the food, shelter, and tools that keep you alive one day at a time. By the time the sun begins to set, you've had a long, tiring day. Your first hunt, although successful, has taken its toll. You're physically exhausted from the tension of tracking, hunting, and processing your kill. The day's work isn't over, though. After all, you still have to prepare for the night. The wilderness of the Stone Age doesn't care if you're tired. It only cares if you survive. Your shelter is basic at best, a few branches and leaves hastily stacked together to keep the cold at bay. As night falls, the temperature drops rapidly, and your body starts to feel the chill creeping deep into your bones. The warmth of the fire you've managed to start, a primitive flame from striking flint and stone, provides some comfort, but it's nowhere near enough to keep the cold completely at bay. The flickering firelight is the only thing standing between you and the vast, black wilderness that surrounds you. You huddle closer to the fire, the warmth that provides a small, fragile comfort. The crackling of the fire is the only sound you hear, other than the occasional rustling of leaves or the distant howls of wild animals. The noises of the Stone Age are alien to you, different from the comforting hum of modern life. But this is the sound of survival, the unknown. Every sound could be a predator lurking in the dark, or worse, another human. Your mind begins to play tricks on you. The wind howls through the trees, carrying with it strange and unsettling noises. You're still not used to the idea of being alone in such a hostile world. Back in modern life, you could retreat into your home, turn on a light, lock a door. But here, in the Stone Age, your home is the wilderness, and there's no refuge from the wild dangers that may be just outside your shelter. You try to focus on staying warm, but your thoughts keep drifting back to the day's hunt. How did humans survive so much more effectively than you? How did they manage to live in such brutal conditions for so long? The fear and loneliness gnaw at you, making it clear that survival here isn't just physical, it's mental. The fear sets in deeper as you lay on the cold ground, trying to sleep. Could you survive? The questions linger in your mind like shadows that grow longer with the night. What if your shelter isn't enough to protect you from the cold? What if your fire goes out? What if a predator is out there, watching you from the darkness, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? This part will dive deep into the emotional aspect of surviving in the Stone Age, how fear, isolation, and uncertainty are constant companions in this brutal world. It's not just about staying warm or avoiding predators, it's about mental resilience. As night falls and the darkness closes in, you begin to realize that survival in the Stone Age isn't just about fighting against nature. It's about fighting against yourself. As the night deepens, you start to feel the weight of isolation settle in. The fire, though warm, casts eerie shadows around you, and it almost feels like the darkness is alive, watching, waiting. Each crackling log in the fire is a reminder that you're hanging on by a thread, and there's no safety net in this ancient world. No lights, no phones, no way to contact help. It's just you and the wilderness. The emotional toll of this first night hits harder than the physical exhaustion. In modern life, we're accustomed to noise, traffic, conversations, the hum of technology, but here, in the Stone Age, the silence is suffocating. It's a reminder of just how alone you are. You try to focus on the fire, its warmth offering some comfort, but every crackle feels like a heartbeat, a reminder of the fragility of your existence here. The night is cold, far colder than anything you've experienced in the comfort of modern life. You pull the remnants of your makeshift shelter tighter around yourself, but it's not enough. The cold of the Stone Age is relentless, and your body, so accustomed to the comforts of a warm bed, shivers in protest. You wonder how ancient humans endured this night after night, how they managed to stay sane in a world so brutally indifferent. The fire flickers, casting long shadows on the ground, and your mind races. The creatures that roamed the earth in this time were far more terrifying than any predator today. The saber-toothed tiger, with its deadly fangs, could be lurking just outside your shelter, silently watching. You can't hear its approach, and the thought alone sends a chill down your spine. The fear of what might be out there is almost more overwhelming than the physical discomfort you feel. Every movement in the bushes could be a predator or another person, but you won't know until it's too late. As the hours drag on, you begin to realize that survival in this world isn't just about hunting or finding shelter. It's about the constant awareness that death could come at any moment, that your life is hanging by a fragile thread. The Stone Age is a world where everything wants to kill you, and you're left to make sense of this primal environment with nothing but your instincts. Every night, when the sun sets, you will be reminded of your vulnerability in this world. The absence of modern technology, of safety, and of comfort makes it clear just how brutal and raw the Stone Age truly was. Your mind starts to wander back to your previous life, where a quick phone call or a light in the window would chase away fear. Here, though, there's no escape from the darkness, and no modern comforts to shield you from the primal instinct to survive. But in this moment, as you huddle by the fire, you begin to understand something about the ancient humans who lived here. Resilience. Survival wasn't just about physical strength. It was about mental fortitude, a sharp awareness of your environment, and the ability to endure day after day against the constant threats of nature and predators. The Stone Age was a time when only the strong survived, not just physically, but mentally. As the night drags on, your mind keeps racing through the survival tactics of ancient humans. You think about the tools they crafted, the traps they set, the shelters they built. But even then, you wonder, how did they cope with the constant threat? How did they handle the sheer terror of knowing that the next moment could be their last? The darkness feels heavier now. You force your eyes to close, hoping that sleep will come, but your mind won't let go of the fear. It's hard to rest when you're in constant danger, when survival is the only thought that fills your head. But as the night wears on and you struggle to stay awake, you finally start to understand the full weight of living in the Stone Age. Every decision, every moment is a fight for your life. And in this world, you can never let your guard down. As dawn finally breaks, you breathe a sigh of relief. You survived the first night, but the day will bring new challenges, and the cycle of survival will continue. You realize that every day in the Stone Age is a test. No matter how prepared you think you are, you can never be fully ready for the next wave of danger, uncertainty, or fear that comes with being thrown into a world that's far more brutal than anything you could have imagined. Facing the deadliest creatures of the Stone Age, your heart races. As you step further into the heart of the Stone Age world, aware that danger is never far away. You've barely managed to make it through your first night, and now you're confronted with a whole new level of terror. The creatures. Prehistoric Earth was home to some of the deadliest and most terrifying animals to ever roam the planet, and in the Stone Age, they were everywhere. First up, mammoths, the giants of the Ice Age. These enormous creatures weighed tons and had tusks that could reach up to 15 feet long. Imagine walking across a vast, open plain and suddenly seeing one of these titans charging at you. The ground shakes beneath their massive feet, and the sheer power of their body makes the air feel heavy. As intimidating as they are, mammoths were no joke. Their size made them one of the most formidable creatures on the planet, and for early humans, they were a constant threat and a food source. The mammoth's brute strength wasn't the only thing that made it dangerous. If you were to find yourself face to face with a herd of mammoths, you'd have to contend with their sheer aggression. If they felt threatened, whether by a human or another animal, they could charge without hesitation, trampling anything in their path. Early humans had to be extraordinarily careful when hunting them, often using teamwork and strategy to bring these massive creatures down. But even the smartest hunter could find themselves on the receiving end of a mammoth's tusks. The saber-toothed tiger was another predator you'd have to watch out for. With teeth longer than your hand and a deadly bite capable of taking down large prey, this terrifying predator didn't just stalk the wild, it hunted to kill. Saber-toothed cats were agile and stealthy, able to move swiftly through the underbrush without being noticed. You might be walking along, minding your own business, when suddenly it strikes. One of the most shocking things about the saber-toothed tiger was how it hunted. Unlike modern big cats that stalk their prey from a distance, the saber-tooth preferred to get in close before delivering the killing blow. It wasn't the kind of animal that would give you a fighting chance. When it came to speed and power, the saber-tooth was unmatched. Your only option in the face of this predator, outsmarting it. You couldn't rely on sheer strength or speed to escape. It was all about creating an advantage in the environment, whether that meant hiding in the trees or using tools to defend yourself. In this section, we'll break down what it was like to face these beasts head-on. Could you survive an encounter with a mammoth? Could you outrun a saber-toothed tiger? The odds were slim, and ancient humans had to get creative using weapons, traps, and their environment to fight back against these terrifying creatures. The real question is, could you use the same tactics to outsmart them, or would you fall victim to one of these ancient predators in the fight for survival? Early humans had to rely on more than just brute strength. They had to use their intelligence and resourcefulness. In this section, we dive into the tools and tactics ancient humans used to survive against some of the most dangerous creatures the world has ever seen. While you might not have the same kind of weapons they did, it's fascinating to consider how they used their environment and their wits to get the upper hand. One of the most important tools in the Stone Age was the spear, simple but deadly when wielded properly. Early humans learned how to craft spears from sharp stones and sticks, and these spears gave them the ability to hunt large prey from a distance. The key was precision and timing. You couldn't just charge at a mammoth or a saber-toothed tiger and expect to win, but with a spear, you could strike from afar and hopefully avoid the creature's deadly retaliation. Along with spears, stone knives and axes were common tools. That gave early humans an advantage. They could use these tools to carve out shelter, process food, and when needed, defend themselves from predators. However, these tools weren't the only weapons in the arsenal. Fire was an essential tool of survival, used to cook food, keep predators away, and even hunt. Early humans learned to control fire by striking flint stones together or rubbing sticks to create sparks. The threat of fire alone could deter many predators from approaching, as it meant danger to both animals and humans. The real advantage of the early humans lay in their teamwork. When it came to large prey like mammoths, a solo hunter had little chance of success. But as a group, early humans could use coordinated attacks, trapping animals in natural obstacles like cliffs or pits, ensuring they couldn't escape. They might have also used ambush tactics, surrounding the prey and trapping it in a tight spot. Working together, they could increase their chances of success and survival. Though every hunt was still a high-risk endeavor. So, how does this compare to your chances in the Stone Age? As a modern human with no experience, you'd be starting from scratch. You might have the physical strength and endurance to run long distances, but when facing off against these massive creatures, you'll quickly realize that raw strength isn't enough. The key to survival is using your surroundings and working as a team. Alone, your chances are slim, but with the right tools, tactics, and group mentality, you might just stand a chance. The Stone Age was as much about brains as it was about brawn. If you didn't know how to outwit the creatures that roamed the earth, survival would be nearly impossible. This section will focus on the importance of strategy, how early humans used their knowledge of the environment, and the clever tactics they employed to outsmart some of the most dangerous creatures in history. One of the most critical strategies was learning how to use the landscape to your advantage. Early humans often hunted in areas where animals were forced to move through narrow corridors, like ravines or between large rocks. By herding animals into these natural traps, they could corner them, making it easier to hunt them down. Ambush hunting, where humans waited silently in trees or behind rocks until their prey got close enough, was another common tactic. It was a game of patience, but when executed well, it was incredibly effective. In some cases, early humans relied on fire to drive animals toward them or away from danger. The sight and smell of fire could disorient prey, forcing them to move in one direction. Humans would use this to herd animals toward more controlled areas where they could strike. Even the smell of smoke could create an advantage. For predators like saber-toothed tigers, the smell of smoke could signal danger, making them think twice before attacking. Another tactic was to hunt in groups, dividing the labor and ensuring that there were always eyes on the lookout for danger. Cooperative hunting was a critical aspect of early survival. A well-organized group could overwhelm larger animals, such as mammoths, using calculated efforts to bring them down, either through physical force or through tricks to tire them out. Outsmarting the beasts of the Stone Age was all about using your mind. The world was dangerous, and the creatures were formidable. But with the right strategies, you could turn the odds in your favor. So, how do you stack up against the creatures of the Stone Age? Could you outthink them, or would you fall prey to their savage power? The truth is, survival wasn't about being the strongest, it was about being the smartest. Now that you've had a glimpse of the creatures that ruled the Stone Age, and the immense threats they posed, it's time to explore how early humans used their surroundings, tools, and knowledge to outsmart these deadly predators. Survival was a game of wits, and ancient humans had to be clever and creative in their approaches. The first key advantage they had was the ability to create tools. Unlike modern humans, who rely on factories and machines, early humans had to craft their own weapons and tools by hand. A spear, for example, was not just a weapon but a tool for survival. Carefully crafted from wood and stone, the crafting process was time-consuming and meticulous, but it was a skill that paid off. Early humans knew how to make weapons strong enough to hunt large animals, but also precise enough to defend themselves from predators. The knowledge of creating stone tools wasn't just important for hunting, it was vital for self-defense. For a modern person thrown into this world, the lack of ready-made weapons would be a severe disadvantage. But for early humans, creating a spear or sharp-edged stone tools from the resources around them was a matter of life and death. If you didn't know how to make these tools, your chances of survival would drop significantly. Alongside tools, fire was another game changer. Early humans learned how to create and control fire, something that made all the difference when it came to hunting and self-defense. Fire served as both a deterrent to predators and a way to manipulate the environment. To the human's advantage, it could be used to flush out prey or force animals into a trap. Imagine standing with a torch in your hand, the bright orange light flickering in the darkness as you prepare to hunt or defend yourself. The smoke would cloud the senses of both animals and humans, creating confusion. The saber-toothed tiger might be powerful, but it would hesitate before engaging a human carrying fire was power in the Stone Age. Early humans didn't only rely on brute strength or individual effort, they relied on teamwork. Hunting larger prey, like mammoths, required more than one person. It was a group effort to bring down such massive creatures, and humans understood the importance of collaboration. The coordinated attack was key. Groups of humans would ambush the animals, surrounding them or forcing them into a specific direction where they were easy to trap. Hunters had to be patient and work as one cohesive unit, with each member of the group having a specific role. They could succeed where one lone individual would fail. For a modern-day human who has never experienced the need for such cooperative survival tactics, trying to replicate this kind of teamwork would be difficult. It wasn't about physical strength alone, it was about knowing how to work together to accomplish a common goal. Early humans had no choice but to depend on each other to survive, and in doing so, they learned how to use their combined intelligence and strength to outwit the more dangerous predators around them. Now that we've looked at the tools and teamwork that early humans used to hunt and defend themselves, let's explore how they used their environment to outsmart some of the most dangerous creatures to ever live. The Stone Age wasn't just about having a strong weapon or a well-coordinated group. It was about using cleverness and the natural world to your advantage. One of the most crucial survival strategies was setting traps. Early humans didn't just wait around hoping to spot prey. They created intricate traps to catch animals and avoid direct confrontation. Pit traps were often used to capture larger animals. These were deep holes covered with branches and leaves, designed to break the fall of any animal that stepped into them. Once an animal fell into a pit, it was trapped, and the hunters could approach it without having to engage it directly. Pit traps weren't just effective for large prey like mammoths, they could be used for smaller animals, like deer and rabbits as well. For a modern human, imagining the precision and patience required to set up such traps in the wild would be an incredible challenge. Along with traps, early humans were also adept at ambush tactics. These tactics involved understanding the movements of animals, using the landscape to their advantage, and setting up natural barriers like rivers, rocks, or cliffs. Predators like saber-toothed tigers were strong and fast, but early humans used their environment to restrict the movement of these creatures, forcing them into a position where they could be attacked. It was all about controlling the terrain, controlling the animals, and controlling the situation to ensure that the hunter had the upper hand. In some cases, the prey was too large or dangerous to be killed by a single attack. Early humans understood the value of tiring the animal out. This was especially true for mammoths. They used strategies of attrition, wearing the animal down over time by forcing it to move in one direction or by confusing it. Mammoths, although powerful, were not invincible. A tired, stressed mammoth was easier to manage and ultimately kill. Imagine trying to keep a mammoth moving, cutting off its escape routes while your group of hunters closes in. The ancient hunters didn't just charge blindly at these massive creatures. They were patient, methodical, and precise. So, how does this compare to what you'd do if you found yourself in this ancient world? Would you be able to use your environment and natural instincts to outsmart creatures that were faster, stronger, and much more dangerous than you? The odds are stacked against you, but like the early humans, it's about outwitting the threats around you. It's a test of both mental and physical strength. Survival isn't just about brute force, it's about adaptability and innovation. Learning how to use the environment to your advantage and developing the strategies that would keep you alive long enough to face another day. As you continue to navigate the dangers of the Stone Age, one thing becomes increasingly clear: survival isn't about just raw strength. It's about smart thinking and using the world around you to gain an edge over the deadly creatures that ruled the land. If you're going to survive, you need to be more than just strong, you need to be strategic. While traps and ambush tactics are essential, the environment itself provides many tools that could be used to outsmart predators. Rivers, cliffs, and caves weren't just features of the landscape, they were tools for survival. Let's take a look how ancient humans used the world around them to their advantage. Rivers were essential in controlling the movement of animals, especially larger predators. If you were facing a saber-toothed tiger or a mammoth, you might want to guide them toward a river or a stream. The water's edge can become a natural barrier. Large animals like mammoths might hesitate to cross the river, fearing the swift current or the instability of the water. By positioning yourself and your group carefully, you can herd the prey toward the water, restricting its movements and increasing the chances of a successful hunt. Cliffs were another natural advantage. Mammoths, for example, would be drawn to wide, open spaces where they could graze. But those same spaces often had steep drops at the edges, perfect for trapping animals. Early humans used the landscape's natural features, driving prey toward these cliffs where they could not escape. Once cornered, the herd would be easy to pick off, one by one. It wasn't about fighting the animal head-on. It was about manipulating the environment to make the animal's escape impossible. In fact, one of the earliest methods of hunting that relied on outsmarting creatures was the use of sounds and movement to confuse predators. Imagine standing near a large group of trees, mimicking the sound of a predator in the distance. The prey would be tricked into thinking there was a bigger threat nearby, causing it to act recklessly or move toward a trap. Early humans had to understand animal psychology, learning the signals and reactions of the creatures they hunted to gain an advantage. Now, let's talk about caves in the Stone Age. Caves weren't just shelter, they were key strategic locations. For ambushes and hideouts, they offered protection from both the elements and predators. Imagine walking through a dense forest, trying to avoid detection, only to find a cave entrance hidden among the trees. You could use caves to hide from danger or set up ambush points, luring predators into narrow, confined spaces where they couldn't escape. Cave paintings even indicate that early humans used these natural formations to create traps and hide from large predators. But perhaps the most clever tactic used by ancient humans was their ability to learn and adapt. Unlike the creatures of the Stone Age, who were governed by instinct, humans had the ability to observe, experiment, and adjust their methods. As they faced off against dangerous creatures, they began to understand their prey, how it moved, what scared it, what drew it in. By adapting to these patterns, they were able to survive in ways that many other species couldn't. For a modern human suddenly placed in the Stone Age, the ability to adapt would be your best chance of survival. While you may not have the same experience or knowledge as early humans, you do have the benefit of modern understanding and creativity. If you could draw on those strengths, you might just be able to outsmart the same creatures that terrified our ancestors. Would you be able to survive by using these strategies? Could you adapt to your surroundings as the early humans did? The reality of the Stone Age was that survival wasn't guaranteed. It was a constant battle of brains versus brawn, and the smarter hunter had the edge. The sun rises, casting its first light across the harsh landscape of the Stone Age. You're alive. But the question is, for how long? The stakes have never been higher. As you venture further into the wilderness, you realize just how important community is. Early humans weren't just surviving alone. They were living in tribes, small groups bound together by the shared need to survive. This first part of your journey into the Stone Age will focus on the power of the tribe and the essential role social bonds played in the survival of early humans. The harshness of the Stone Age made it clear that no one could survive alone for long. While an individual might have the physical strength to fight off a predator or hunt for food, it was the tribe that made survival possible. Working together, early humans were able to hunt larger game, defend against predators, and share resources, like food and shelter. Together, they were stronger. A typical Stone Age tribe would have been small, usually consisting of a few families or groups of related individuals. The tribal structure was crucial for maintaining order and survival. As humans began to form these small social units, they learned that cooperation was the key to thriving in a world that was out to kill them at every turn. The dynamics of these tribes were simple but effective. You had hunters, gatherers, and leaders who coordinated the group's activities. The hunters would go out to track and kill prey, while the gatherers would search for edible plants, fruits, and herbs. The leaders, though informal, were the ones who kept the group united, making decisions about when to move, where to hunt, and how to protect the tribe from dangers. For you, placed in this world without the support of modern technology or the comforts of society, the idea of joining a tribe might seem intimidating at first. But the truth is, without the tribe, survival would be near impossible. Early humans depended on each other not just for physical survival, but for emotional support. In a world where death was always lurking just around the corner, the human connection was a powerful motivator to keep fighting. You may think you could survive alone, but in a world filled with giant predators and unpredictable weather, the tribe's support would be essential. Could you join the tribe and contribute your skills to help the group? Or would you struggle to fit in, left to face the dangers of the Stone Age alone? As powerful as the tribe was, solitude in the Stone Age came with its own set of challenges. The question arises, could you survive alone in the wild? The early humans, who chose to isolate themselves, either out of necessity or by choice, faced a completely different kind of battle. This part delves into the emotional and physical toll of living in isolation. In a world where community was vital, and solitude meant certain death for most. Imagine waking up alone, without the warmth of a tribe around you. The silence is deafening. No chatter, no shared laughs, just the eerie stillness of the wilderness. For early humans, the fear of the unknown was a constant companion. There were no walls to keep out predators, no other humans to help build shelter, and no group to share the burden of hunting or gathering food. The emotional strain of living alone in the Stone Age could be overwhelming. Fear would be your constant companion as you searched for food and tried to make shelter. Without the support of others, your chances of survival were drastically reduced. The physical toll would also be extreme. Gathering food and hunting for yourself would require constant effort, and without the strength of a tribe to share the work, exhaustion would quickly set in. The reality of isolation is not just about being alone, it's about surviving in a world where there's no safety net. Early humans who chose isolation had to be exceptionally self-sufficient, capable of crafting tools, building shelter, and knowing how to defend themselves against the creatures of the wild. But without a tribe, they had no one to turn to if things went wrong. If they fell ill, were injured, or lost their way, there would be no one to help. It's easy to romanticize the idea of solitary survival, but the truth is much harsher. Could you survive alone in a world so dangerous? Or would the isolation break you down emotionally and physically? The survivalists of today can learn a lot from the Stone Age. No one is truly self-sufficient, even the toughest, most skilled. Individuals in history depended on others for survival. Tribal support was more than just physical. It was emotional and psychological. In the Stone Age, survival wasn't guaranteed, it was a constant struggle. This final section of the chapter takes a hard look at the reality of life in the Stone Age. Survival of the fittest, while the tribe provided support. The ruthless nature of the world meant that only those who adapted the fastest and the smartest made it through. The Stone Age wasn't about fairness, it was about survival. The phrase survival of the fittest comes to life in the most brutal ways in the prehistoric world. If you weren't strong enough to defend yourself, clever enough to hunt, or fast enough to escape, the world would reject you. This harsh environment didn't care about your age, gender, or status within the tribe. It only cared about whether you could contribute to the survival of the group. A sickly or weak tribe member would quickly be seen as a liability. They wouldn't be able to hunt effectively, build shelter, or defend against predators. In the harsh world of the Stone Age, there wasn't much room for compassion when survival was at stake. The tribe depended on everyone to contribute, and if you couldn't keep up, you would be left behind. This is why adaptability was the true key to survival. On the other hand, the fittest tribe members were able to take on more responsibilities, whether that was leading a hunt, protecting the tribe from predators, or even caring for the young or injured. Strength, intelligence, and the ability to learn from experiences were vital in this world. Would you make it? The battle for survival was unforgiving, and the environment constantly tested your willpower and resilience. As you start to grasp the true nature of survival in the Stone Age, you begin to understand that fitness isn't just physical, it's mental. You need to be resourceful, patient, and resilient. Could you adapt to this brutal world, or would you fall behind in the fight to survive? When we think of survival in the Stone Age, the first thing that often comes to mind is tools. The ability to create tools was one of the defining features that set early humans apart from other species. In this chapter, we'll take a closer look at the development of tools and how these innovations were central to survival. The creation of even the simplest tools changed the course of human history and played a critical role in making sure that early humans didn't just survive, they thrived. At the beginning of the Stone Age, humans relied on stone tools. These were the first real instruments of survival, crafted from flint, obsidian, and other sharp rocks. With these, early humans could cut, chop, hunt, and defend themselves. The simplest of tools, like a stone hand axe, could be used for everything, from butchering animals to digging up roots for food. The tools weren't perfect, but they were effective. Creating these tools wasn't easy. Early humans didn't have modern technology or mass-produced materials. They had to be creative with what they had. Flint knapping, the process of striking stones to create sharp edges, was a skill passed down through generations. The precision required to make tools wasn't just a matter of strength. It was about careful craftsmanship. The more skilled a person was at making tools, the better their chances of surviving. In the absence of specialized tools, every early human had to learn how to create what they needed from the raw materials around them. But unlike modern humans, who have factories to produce everything, early humans were their own manufacturers, using the land as their own personal toolbox. The hand axe, for example, could be used to chop wood for shelter or as a weapon in the event of an attack. It was the epitome of early human ingenuity, simple yet effective. Without these basic tools, early humans wouldn't have stood a chance. But as we move forward, we'll see how these early innovations paved the way for even more complex tools and technologies that would allow humans to conquer new challenges. As early humans honed their tool-making skills, they stumbled upon, perhaps, the most important discovery in human history: fire. Imagine a time when fire was not a constant. There was no stove to turn on, no fireplace to sit by. Fire had to be created, and it was life-saving in ways we can't fully appreciate today. From providing warmth to cooking food, fire became The lifeblood of survival in the Stone Age, fire wasn't just for light or warmth. It was a weapon against predators, a method for cooking food, and a tool for tool making itself. The first humans who learned to control fire could cook meat, making it more digestible and safer to eat. In a time when food poisoning was a real threat, cooking meat was crucial for survival. It also allowed humans to process other food sources, like tubers, making them edible and easier to digest. In addition, fire helped ward off predators. Wild animals feared the flames, and having a fire would keep dangerous creatures at bay. Early humans used fire to create barriers of light and heat, ensuring that predators like wolves and saber-toothed cats would stay far away from their camp. This simple tool transformed the way humans interacted with the environment and gave them a major survival advantage. But fire wasn't easy to make. The first methods of starting a fire required skill and patience. Early humans would strike stones together to create sparks or rub sticks to create friction and heat. In this world, making fire was an art of vital skill that had to be learned through trial and error. Imagine standing in the wilderness, trying to start a fire with nothing but sticks, stones, and your own determination. It's a skill that would become one of the defining markers of human survival. Fire wasn't just something humans used to make their lives easier. It was a tool for thriving in a hostile world. Once humans had fire, the possibilities expanded. They could cook, defend, create warmth, and even work late into the night. The mastery of fire marked a huge leap forward in human evolution. The true test of early human innovation wasn't just in creating tools and fire. It was in how humans used them to adapt and survive in the Stone Age world. With tools in hand and fire under control, early humans could craft better shelters, hunt larger game, and defend themselves from nature's threats. But even with these advantages, life in the Stone Age was harsh. Shelter, for example, was more than just a roof. Over your head, it was a matter of life and death. Early humans didn't have houses like we do today. They relied on natural formations, such as caves, or simple structures built from wood, bones, and animal skins. The environment itself often dictated the type of shelter they could create. A cave might offer protection from the elements and predators, but it could also be a dangerous place if another predator had already claimed it. In this environment, survival was often about adapting, learning to use the landscape, the tools, and the skills at your disposal to meet each new challenge. Early humans had to be resourceful, using their tools to build better shelters, craft better weapons, and hunt more effectively. They didn't have the luxury of endless resources. They had to make do with what they could find in the wilderness. Beyond shelter, fire, and tools, communication became another essential aspect of survival. Early humans didn't have written language, but they learned to communicate using gestures, sounds, and primitive forms of speech. This made teamwork, cooperation, and strategic thinking possible. Without communication, hunting large animals, like mammoths, would have been near impossible. In a world where the smallest mistake could cost you your life, effective communication was just as crucial as any tool or weapon. Living in the Stone Age required more than just the ability to survive. It required innovation, adaptability, and the willingness to work together to face the challenges of the wild. It was a world where every decision mattered, where your survival depended on how well you could use the tools, fire, and strategies you had. The harshness of the Stone Age world might seem unimaginable to us now, but for early humans, it was the only world they knew. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were creating the foundation for everything that would come after. Without their innovations, there would be no modern civilization. In this world, every small advancement was a giant leap for humankind. The Stone Age, with all its danger and raw survival, marked the dawn of human civilization. Yet, the world was changing, and as you stand in this ancient wilderness, you begin to realize that the end of the Stone Age was near. Early humans had survived using tools, fire, and cooperation, but now, something even more revolutionary was on the horizon: agriculture. Agriculture would change everything. No longer would humans need to chase down wild game or gather food from the forest. Instead, they would grow their own food, creating a stable, predictable food supply. This shift from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle to farming was one of the most important moments in human history, and it all started in the Stone Age. As early humans began to experiment with plants, they discovered that certain grains and vegetables could be cultivated and harvested for food. The ability to domesticate plants was a game changer. No longer would humans need to worry about the unpredictability of hunting. The harvest was now in their hands. By planting seeds and tending to crops, early humans could ensure that food would be available year-round. The transition from hunting to farming didn't happen overnight. It was a gradual process, with humans experimenting with different plants, learning which ones thrived and which ones didn't. In the beginning, agriculture wasn't as efficient as it is today, but the foundations were being laid for the growth of entire civilizations. This was the moment that set the course for the development of cities, trade, and eventually, modern life as we know it. For you, standing in the Stone Age, the idea of planting seeds and watching them grow might seem strange, but for early humans, it was a huge leap forward. The dawn of agriculture meant that survival no longer depended solely on hunting and gathering. It was now about creating a stable food source. Could you adapt to this new way of life? Could you shift your mindset from chasing prey to nurturing the earth? As agriculture began to take hold, another groundbreaking discovery was waiting to be made: metal. After thousands of years of using stone tools, early humans stumbled upon a material that would change the course of history: copper. This was the beginning of the Bronze Age, and it would forever alter the tools and weapons that humans used. The discovery of metal was more than just a new material. It was the beginning of a technological revolution. Early humans learned to smelt copper, turning it from a soft metal into something far stronger. With copper, they could create sharper tools, stronger weapons, and more durable structures. Copper tools were far more efficient than stone, and soon, humans were experimenting with other metals, such as tin, to create bronze, a combination of copper and tin that was even stronger. Bronze allowed early humans to build better weapons, from swords and spears to armor that could withstand the blows of predators and other humans. These metal tools also made farming more efficient, with bronze plows and axes cutting through the earth far more easily than stone tools ever could. The ability to work with metal meant that humans could now craft tools and weapons that were far more effective and durable. But the discovery of metal wasn't just about making better tools. It changed the way humans interacted with the world. Metal was valuable, and soon, it became a form of currency. Early trade began to emerge as humans exchanged goods, food, and resources, relying on metal as a medium of exchange. It marked the beginning of more complex societies, where humans started to form larger communities and even early forms of government. For you, standing in this world without the knowledge of metal, it's hard to imagine the shift it caused. But the discovery of metal tools was revolutionary, and it laid the groundwork for the development of advanced technologies in the centuries to come. Early humans could now shape the world in ways they never could before. As the Stone Age comes to an end, it's clear that its influence is far from over. The innovations of this era were the foundation upon which all future civilizations would be built. The skills, tools, and strategies that early humans developed didn't just help them survive, they transformed the world. The Stone Age taught early humans the importance of cooperation, innovation, and adaptability. These are the same qualities that allowed humans to survive through the challenges of the Stone Age and transition into the future. The ability to make tools, control fire, and adapt to the environment was passed down through generations, and as new technologies emerged, these basic principles continued to guide human progress. The legacy of the Stone Age can be seen in everything we do today: the tools we use, the way we build our societies, and even the way we interact with the environment all have roots in this early period of human history. Agriculture and metalworking gave rise to civilizations, and the rise of cities eventually led to the world we live in today, one where humans are no longer just surviving, but thriving. But the Stone Age didn't just leave behind physical artifacts, it left a philosophy of survival. Early humans understood that survival wasn't just about fighting off predators or finding food. It was about using intelligence, creativity, and resourcefulness to adapt to a world that was constantly changing. The Stone Age was a time of transformation, and everything that followed was built on the knowledge and skills developed during this period. As you stand in the wilderness of the Stone Age, you can begin to see how far humanity has come. The discoveries and innovations of this time laid the groundwork for everything that came after. In a world without electricity, without technology, and without the comforts of modern life, early humans found a way to not only survive but shape. The future. The legacy of the Stone Age is alive today in the tools we use, the way we build our societies, and the innate desire to survive and thrive. Without the Stone Age, there would be no modern world. The roots of human civilization run deep into the ancient past, and everything we know today has been touched by the ingenuity and resilience of those who came before us. If you found this journey into the Stone Age fascinating and want to explore more about how our ancestors shaped the world we live in today, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing stories about the past. Share your thoughts in the comments. What part of the Stone Age do you think was the most surprising or impactful? Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning about the incredible stories that shaped our history. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an adventure back in time.